as we approach these Thanksgiving Day games, there are a lot of interesting trends. And so we're going to test things and see if these Turkey Day trends are your friends or not. And we'll start a little bit big picture because since 2006, Michael, favorites of a touchdown or more on Thanksgiving are not only 21-2 straight up, but they're 17-6 against the spread. So clicking at a 65% clip, all three of our games match that trend. Lions -7.5, Cowboys -11, and the 49ers are up from that 6.5 to 7. So do we think, just big picture, the favorites can get it done again?
I think two of the three will do it. Yes, I think two of the three will do it. I don't think the Cowboys, who are historically very bad on Thanksgiving Day, believe it or not, in terms of covering and even winning, are going to cover that 11 number. I think that 11 number is way too big. I mean, Washington seems to play Dallas pretty well, right? I mean, they do play them half decent. I don't know how they'll do it this week. Dallas beats up on bad teams. I grant you that. But, I mean, you go back to over the course of time, in 2022, the Raiders were a 7-point dog, and the Raiders upset them. Yep. So I that's the only thing. I like the Lions probably the most. The 49ers at 7, I'm shocked it went back to 7. It was 6.5 now. I mean, there's probably some 7s out there if you can get it. And I would take that. I would do that because I think ultimately, this will be it's going to either be a push or you're going to win it.
These division games can get a little bit weird. That's why I think the 49ers are going to win. I feel fairly confident in that, and that's why I used it as a teaser play, and I paired it with the Lions. But to go back to the Cowboys and Commanders, Michael, you referenced it, and you gave us the note yesterday here on the Lombardi line. Cowboys are 1-11 against the spread their last 12 Thanksgiving games. With Dak, he's 3-3 straight up, 1-5 against the spread on Thanksgiving. They've also been really slow starting in these games. 6 straight now that they have gone into the halftime break trailing at halftime. But you also mentioned the way they've taken care of business largely over lesser than opponents. Obviously, they were a huge favorite against the Arizona Cardinals earlier this season. They lose that game straight up. But of their 7 wins, it's like 5 or 6 of them, Michael, that are by 20-plus points this year. So they have been able to win and win big this season. This isn't a game that I'm rushing to go bet, but I could see the Cowboys covering it. I'm not laying it, but I could see it happening.
I could too, because this Cowboy team's a little different, right? So we talked earlier in the show about the Eagles' dominance in the second quarter last year, and it's not there this year. 204 points scored last year in the second quarter. They kind of just got ahead of everybody. Well, that version of that team is really residing in Dallas. Dallas has scored 113 points in the second quarter alone, and in the first half they averaged 19.4 points a game. And in the first half, they give up 8.8 per game. So they are playing from in front, and they control the ball for 32-31. And the defense only is on the field for 27-29. So they're able to play really good complementary football. Their defense has played 100 less plays than their offense. Think about that, Stormy. That's almost 2 games. So what does that say to us? As better, they're fresh. They're ready to go. They're going to be able to rush the passer when they get the lead, and that's usually what happens. And so that's what creates the turnovers that they need to do. So credit the offensive staff, who everybody was predicting doom and gloom to this offseason because they lost the great Kellen Moore. Well, what they're playing is complementary football. And when they do that, they put a lot of pressure on the opposing team's offense to have to convert third downs. And guess what? The Cowboys are the second best third down team in football.
Yes, sir. Okay, how about Packers-Lions? This is the Lions' day. They've been playing on Thanksgiving since 1934, but this day has not always been kind to them, especially in recent history. How many times have we heard people say, get the Lions off my TV screen on Thanksgiving, let's be done with this tradition because they've been so bad. They have dropped 6 straight. They are a different team this season. This is the first time the Lions are favorites on Thanksgiving since 2016, but as a favorite, 8-0 straight up as favorites on Thanksgiving the past 30 years. So when they have been in the favorites role, things have gone well for them. Since 2004, 4-0 straight up as a favorite, 0-15 as an underdog. Packers have also lost 4 in a row to Detroit. Are these trends toward the Lions your friends?
Yeah, I think so. I think the Lions, I think you have to almost throw out the past Lions because this is a good team. I mean, this is a good team. I love trends. But this is a good team, and I think what you have to do is look backwards a little bit, right? Do we think that Jared Goff's going to throw 3 interceptions again like he did last week? I don't think so, right? The Lions are coming off a 4-turnover game. They had 4 turnovers, and they had 4 turnovers in the last 5 weeks combined. So they protect the ball pretty good normally, right? The last time Goff threw 3 picks was 9-29-19 against the Buccaneers when he was playing for the Rams. He does protect the football. It's uncommon for him to throw 3 picks. So, when the Lions lost earlier in the year and they were a 9.5-point favorite down in Carolina, they won. And so I got a feeling when they played, when they were an 8-point favorite versus the Bears and they didn't cover, then they come back and play the Raiders and they're going to win. They win by 8. So I think they'll bounce back. I really do. I like them at 7.5. I just don't see Jordan Love being as successful offensively as he was against the Chargers because I do think these Lions will put some heat on them.
We got through some of the Turkey Day trends for the first 2 games coming up tomorrow in the NFL. But how about the nightcap, Michael? We got the San Francisco 49ers laying 7 in Seattle, total 43.5, a 5:20 Pacific, 8:20 Eastern kick on NBC. And granted, we all know that I have a little bit of confirmation bias coming, but there are a lot of trends here that are coming up 49ers. I'm just going to lead with that. But okay, well, I know that Seattle has been much better at home than they have on the road. Geno Smith is compromised coming off of a tricep injury, and we talked about all the injuries at the top of the hour. Now you throw in these trends. Home underdogs, Michael, 1-22 on Thanksgiving since 2005. Meanwhile, night favorites like San Francisco, 12-4, 75% ATS since 05. Road favorites are 7 or more on Thanksgiving, 9-0 straight up, 8-1 ATS. And then you also have, we all know already the primetime unders theme this year, but unders in those Thanksgiving games, 11-5, 7-1 to the under the past 8.
Yeah, I don't think the Niners are going to go in there and not play well. They're in the top 5 categories in most every single statistical area. Their defensive front can dominate, and they played well in Seattle. Remember last year they won up there, and, Seattle, again, was a playoff team, and they came back and beat them at home. It was a closer game, but the longer the game goes, San Francisco seems to take over and control the game, and the way they're playing right now offensively, you got to go back to really when Purdy got hurt in Minnesota is the only time their offense has kind of stalled down. Cincinnati, for all the conversation they got killed by Cincinnati, it's 460 yards. They moved the ball up and down the field. They turned it over. They made mistakes. Cleveland was a weather game. I think you have to kind of throw sometimes when you look at these stats, you got to throw out Denver, Miami, throw out the Cleveland game with that wind and weather. Although, all fairness to the 49ers, if Moody makes that kick, we're talking about a team that's 8-2, not 7-3.
2 of those 3 games, you could circle back to being separated by 1 or 2 plays, right? And I know that's an excuse, and we don't like to talk that way. At the end of the day, the result is what the result is. But 2 of those games that could have gone either way. It was a coin flip the way that could have ended. This game, you mentioned the previous history last year. San Francisco won all 3 matchups that they had with with Seattle last season. And now I just feel like since the bye, they're clicking back at that initial level that they were early on in the year that put them at 5-0 and that put them in the contender conversation where everybody was saying this is a team that's going to play for a Super Bowl. I feel like they are back at that level. It does stink that Talanoa Hufanga is out for the season on that back end, because if there is one weakness that you can really point to on San Francisco, I think it's their secondary. So that stinks. But I don't think that Seattle is poised to take advantage of that either, though, Michael, especially with Geno Smith dealing with the injury. And now we see that injury report the way that we have, and even Metcalf dealing with a toe right now. And he's had that nagging hip injury all season.
Right, but what he brings to the team is an incredible ability to run, chase the football, and tackle really well. And they're going to miss that. It's not the coverage that he brings to the table. It's the activity he brings to the table, the open field tackling, the ability to blitz the package, to run support the way he does. They're going to miss that. They're going to have a hard time filling that void, and they're going to have to compensate for that because he is a dynamic player, and he can disguise the coverages really well, and he's all over the field. He's a playmaker. They're going to need to do that, but it's not going to really affect their pass defense as much as you might suspect because he's never really going to be locked in man-to-man. It could affect their tackling ratio, how they tackle in space, because he's been very good at that.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.